Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Hi. I am excited to be here today. So just a couple things. I am actually based here in San Francisco out of our Watson West headquarters. So for any that are interested in coming to see some of the use cases and the way we're reimagining different professions and industries, definitely engage me and other IBMers in the audience. The second piece I'm also excited to share with you before I get into the content is we have just published, literally this week, so you will be the very first audience to see some of the results of a global CMO study that has been conducted with over 2,000 CMOs of some of the top industries around the world. So I'm going to show you kind of some highlights of those, as well as use case studies of how AI and machine learning analytics is fundamentally transforming kind of the role in the profession in different ways. Sound good? We're going to jam it in. And then afterwards, there's opportunity to engage with IBMers in the audience as well as myself in terms of Q&A. Okay, with that. So some context on this study, let me share a couple facts. So first is 84% believe that their current business model is going to be threatened in the next essentially 5 years, 5 to 10 years max, but really 5 years because of accelerated time. Now this global study is a combination of not only 2,000 plus CMOs, but we actually did a cross-section of 12,000 other C-suite roles. And the reason for that intersection is as you think about the applications for AI and machine learning, and you do it through an industry lens, you're going to have domain experts in roles, in use cases, and case studies. And so you're going to have even more cross-pollination of these roles. The other thing that came through in the study was that 76% say that making decisions informed by data, and everyone knows that curating the data set is probably one of the hardest challenges of machine learning. It's actually identification of the use case and the question set you want to dig into, and then the proper curation of that data set. So curating could be everything from not only understanding the provenance of it, but also authority, in terms of what is true, or what is true in how you want to train the reasoning models. And then the last piece I would say as a whole out of this study was 3 out of 4 enterprises and CMOs are heavily focused on digital reinvention. Now, one of the things that have changed out of the study is we asked them, what are your top 5 priorities across the board? And this is what came across. So number one was for CMOs, increasing sales of revenue, which is really different than previously it would have been, extending the value of the brand, right? It may have been around brand relevance. It may have been around customer experience, digital platform. But what's happening now is this drive to equate marketing campaigns, marketing content, all the way through a conclusion of an actual closed interaction, not just click-through rates, not just people reading content, but like actually adopting the set of services and products that you deliver and then retaining them over time. The next 2 pieces are more obvious. It's omni-channel improvements around the customer experience. It's reinventing the engagement through all channels. And then you'll see ROI and performance measurements. And then the last is championing, especially in the areas of NPS. So these are the top 5 areas that CMOs have identified. Okay, now when I think about AI at large, what we call AI personalization at scale, right? Today, historically, marketers think about it sub-segmentation, you have business rules driven, but in the future, when you're wanting to create personalized moments in real time, the data and the behavior insights across multiple channels, multiple vendors, multiple content is going to get more and more complicated, but we have a clear vision for how we want to do some of these things. So, volume. Hold on 1 second. Okay.
Social.
All right. Try it again.
Customer data, you got it, tons of it, and you know your customer. Take Jack for example. Jack loves waffles. How do you know? Because Sunday Jack said so on social. And last Friday he'd been searching for a waffle maker in your online store. Boom! Now you're ready to talk to him. Because you know Jack. Except, Jack was actually just carving up for a 5K at the end of the week. He's not so much a waffle freak as a fitness freak, but you already assigned him to a target audience, so you're still talking to him about all things waffle. Jack deletes the email without opening it, and then he ignores your SMS, and closes your ad. So you don't know Jack. And to give Jack an experience that would have actually been right for him, you should have had an AI-powered platform that connects all your data to show that he's not obsessed with brunch, he's obsessed with running. And you also would have known that Jack is actually Jacqueline. If your marketing can't make sense of your data, you don't know Jack.
Okay, so this is the work of my team, brilliantly creative, and but this is the challenge of every marketer, right? You've got to figure out if it's Jack or Jacqueline in that moment, not to mention exactly how do you get that. Think about the amount of money that's spent on media and advertising. It's not just about click-through, and even the innovation of applying blockchain to that front end that some clients are already doing for their front advertising spend. So when we think about that challenge, there's a set of use cases that I also want to get through and share with you. Now, in the study, we discovered of the CMOs, there were 3 archetypes, meaning 3 types of CMOs that kind of evolved in terms of their area. So one is called reinventors, one is called practitioners, and then the others were aspirationals. So reinventors, what we saw kind of consistently among them was highest in innovation, leading in revenue, and highest profitability. And what that meant was that they were actually putting into practice different use cases of applying AI to transform their business and business strategy and business model. They had at least started beyond just a pilot and begun to implement. In the second category of practitioners, they have very specific ideas. There's more, I would say, in the pilot stage. They understand pragmatically how to tie performance to outcome, but they're kind of early in that journey. And then the last category we had were aspirationals. Now, these are individuals with big ideas, but they haven't begun anything. And it's still highly more in conversation. You can see kind of the splits. The other thing that was interesting is we have this data across not just industry section, but I'm going to show you different collaborative use cases too. So with that, let me walk you through. There's 4 pillars in the study that we talk about for successful digital transformation. And I'm going to talk about each one of these 4 quickly and give you a use case for each one that'll give you that context. So one is making room for AI in your digital reinvention strategy. So people often talk about, oh, let me add chat for my customer service engagement as an example of a starting point. That is not just what we're talking about. That's just one of the use cases, which is a great use case because chances are you have enough data to curate and apply to it. But I actually want to push your thinking to be even more. Now, one of the things that when we surveyed the CMOs, 74% surveyed said that AI will fundamentally change how they approach customer experience. And they also said that it'll also change how customers view their brand. Now, sadly, though, when we asked those same CMOs after they shared 74% both times, how many of you have an AI strategy and thought through that? It was only 40% of those 74%. 40, which is a really scary thought. So one of the use cases here is that I want to share with you is an incredible story. One of the top brands in the world is called Unilever, and they own a family of number of products. One of the top brands is called Knorr's brand. It's in the food area, and they were incredibly creative. And I'm going to roll the commercial first, and then I will kind of explain a little bit of the use case.
Hi.
How long have you been single for?
6 months now.
3 years now.
Why? I don't know. That's a complicated question.
How would you define love?
Passion.
Agony.
It's that thing that people sing about all the time.
My ideal partner would be
Secure.
I like them to be a combination of elegance and clumsiness.
What are your favorite flavors?
I like hearty stuff.
Love fish.
I love spicy food. I have really high tolerance to spicy food.
you have to feed each other.
So I'm not allowed to put food in my own mouth.
The whole meal.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Everything is so me. This is like the perfect dinner for me.
How are you?
Very good, and you?
Yeah, good.
I'm Clayton.
Cream.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
How do we do this?
You know what? This wasn't very expensive. You can just ram it straight in my mouth. I love everything that is on this table.
Right, okay.
I'm really good at this. So you just need to focus.
Okay.
Whole thing. That's a good bite, right?
Oh my God. Don't move it away from me, move it towards me.
It's very cute when you feel me.
You like it?
I like it. Yeah, but
Okay, just put it in.
And I'll just be like,
Okay. So unexpected, right? Unexpected. So with Knorr's brand, it's a food brand. They have a huge plethora of options in terms of foods, sauces, soups. You can purchase through any grocery store. Now, what's interesting about this is they actually decided to reinvent the way they engage millennials and go after them in a way that made sense. And historically in the food industry, they would cater to, because the highest profitable customer segments were family. And so they would always have an image of a mom cooking dinner, very traditional image, but that doesn't fit a millennial image at all. And one of the things that they discovered on the social realm was a lot of tweeting about and conversations about food and different personalities tied to food. And so what they did was they said, hey, creatively, let's apply AI in a different way to understand the customer segmentations among millennials in a very different engagement model. And they worked with IBM to actually create a front-end tool that, and back-end tool that essentially allows them to create almost 12 different segmentations of people based on flavor types. So you can actually go to their website, put in your type flavor, and what this ended up happening was they then decided they needed content, which is a huge spend amongst marketers on media and through agency work. So they actually develop content by enabling and pairing up, much like online dating services, which is one of the top applications for millennials. They were able to pair up flavor profiles of individuals that were single and then videotaped them eating foods for the very first time in their very first session, and this became unbelievably viral. Talk about a complete reinvention of even just the front end. Here, they haven't necessarily transformed all of their marketing applications, but even their approach to marketing strategy, going after their customer segmentation, was fundamentally different than what you would think through the traditional norm, right? So very simple. First rule is make room for AI in your digital transformation. Now you've got that context. So it's not just about a chat instance or an embedded agent. And I know a lot of people are running to that, and I don't want to minimize that. But this is a fundamental rethinking everything, even such as your customer segmentation, right? They completely transformed that with data. Now the second challenge for digital transformation is enhancing the customer interactions through real-time personalized insights and contextual insights. So data integration is probably one of the biggest challenges that I had mentioned already. And in this work, one of the things that we also discovered as we looked at the archetypes for those companies and the use cases is that those that were the reinventors were well past in terms of their journeys versus aspirationals. So you're talking about a delta of 71% already on that journey, data integration, applying the investments, the infrastructure, as well as the technology investments and people investments to do that relative to 30% of the population that was on the lower end. So this is not an easy thing to do. It's even harder to do it in real time. So a great real-time example I'm going to show you is all about sports and media entertainment. So one of the facilities we ended up working with was the Mercedes-Benz Sports Stadium. And so I want to highlight a couple elements of this particular use case.
Arthur was challenging his leadership team to ensure that every decision we made was going to provide the best possible fan experience 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now.
This isn't about having the Final Four in the Super Bowl once. That's having a relevant stadium that has continued to be viewed as best in class so that we get multiple Super Bowls, multiple college football national championships. That's been the vision from the beginning.
As we started this pathway towards a new stadium,
bandwidth capabilities now, but also decades into the future.
Then when we needed to put technology in our fans' hands, we wanted to give them control. We wanted to give them a companion to help them make the most of their game day experience. We were going to develop apps.
So we sat down and went through a 6 to 10 week process using IBM design thinking, using many people from all across the Falcons and Atlanta United organizations to really plot out what that fan experience was going to be when the stadium opened, and then what were some of those key ideas that allowed us to innovate in future years after the stadium was open.
IBM's team, the same team that develops world-class apps for the Masters or for Wimbledon, is the same team that developed our apps for Atlanta United, for the Falcons, and for the stadium.
Wayfinding in and around the stadium, transportation to and from the venue, digital ticketing to smooth out the process of entering the stadium, and the ability to buy, sell, and transfer tickets. Ask Arthur, which is a Watson integration that allows the fan to get information about the stadium or the venue, integration with Waze and Lyft, and placing your order while you're waiting in line at the concession stand.
So if you're looking for gluten-free food, vegan food, guest services, first aid, do you have changing tables? Where do I park an RV? All of those types of things you can ask, and we have answers built in using Watson technology. When people ask me questions, that's where I go, I ask Arthur.
So with the IBM data...
Okay. So in this particular use case, you can see there's a lot of data. You're talking about the entire B2B ecosystem and B2C ecosystem of beverages, food suppliers, parking, ticketing, email traffic, merchandisers. All of that data set, we help them integrate. Now, the other thing is they embedded in their agent. They didn't call it Watson. They called it what was natural for their brand, which was Ask Arthur. So that also required, hey, we do want an interface of something and someone or an entity that kind of is very simple to understand all of the policy information, locations of the venue, things to do before and after, where to park, maybe security data, maybe Wi-Fi, internet access, whatever it was about making that simple and that simple experience. So the data integration piece is another piece that I highly recommend. People have to be on that journey immediately. Third step, make AI your golden opportunity for collaboration and innovation. One of the things we discovered was, historically the marketing team would work only with other marketers and the agency. Now, in an AI world, the marketing team actually works hand in hand in collaboration closer with the technology team. And sometimes, historically the budgets would be different, discretionary budgets. Moving forward, it actually has to coincide. There's some spend that is driven straight out of marketers, and there'll be some spend out of the CIO office. But the opportunity for collaboration and innovation is huge. And once again, we saw differences in how they were partnering with their organizations. And we saw net of it is essentially aspirationals, the profiles of those CMOs, those particular companies, less collaboration amongst the CX suite, which was interesting. And so a lot of this has to do with effective leadership. Now, the use case here we actually have was around performance bikes, was a customer set. This is one of the use cases we've actually designed the Watson experience. And it's hard to have and showcase here, but the net of this was we were able to collaborate across suppliers as well as internally multiple roles. Marketers, the product group, meaning the product design group that builds bikes and designs, colors, customizes, as well as the merchandisers in the retail storefronts. But what they were doing was listening for signals in the consumer purchase market space, and then also tying to behaviors and different segments of the audience. And we were able to really transform and help them rethink their digital marketing. All right, last step. Start small, but get started. It's a pretty simple punchline, and it's not too late to get started, but you really do need to get started as quickly as possible. So this kind of gives you an idea of the spectrum of where people land. So what you'll notice is about 50% of the CMOs that we interviewed, this is over 2,000 companies, right, around the world, have already started. So they're either in the piloting stage, implementation, or operating stage. That means my view is for those 50% that haven't started, you're probably already behind. If you're already a startup, chances are you're already thinking about it, but don't just think about it, start to experiment. The next piece is the areas that they're actually experimenting. These were the top areas for marketers. So it was customer experience strategy, employee skill set. So I'm going to show you actually a demo of this. Go-to-market strategy, business model, user experience design, brand standards governance, content development, and application development. So this is the areas that they are intentionally putting AI into their project spaces. And what you'll notice is, aside from the customer experience, right, that's the brand engagement through all the various multiple medias and channels that they have, the second was employee skill set. And it was not about replacing human capability, it was actually about augmenting human capability. And so this is a core piece of the strategy. So this is, how is Watson being played? So in my responsibilities, one of the things that we're thinking through is how to actually apply Watson into some of these business applications to augment that service so that me as a professional user working on a marketing tech application, hey, if I'm a brand new user, I just came out of university, I may not know how to use the tool, but why would I have to go and look at traditional notions of books? Why do I have to go to an online community? Why do I have to even go watch videos? Why couldn't I interact with the system in a much more intuitive way? And so we just started to implement this capability within our very first campaign automation software. And so I just want to give you an imagination of what's possible here. And before I do, I also want to put the context of it's really important. It's about man and machine, not one or the other, because the role is very different, right? As a marketer, especially, we have to think about things like compassion, right? Empathy for the users, probably at a higher level than some other professions. We tend to also be dreamers to some degree because of the nature of the marketing campaigns. It's not just about the current state, it's about the future possibility of what a brand could deliver. There's also notions of imagination and moral judgment. And what you want the AI system to do to complement the creative marketers would be things like locating information, eliminating biases, right? Finding patterns, automating simple tasks. And so what we wanted to do was really ensure that in this model, that it's a combination of human and machine was always going to be greater than human or machine. And a very simple instance, and hopefully this works well, is we're going to pretend that just for a second, for the next couple minutes, that I am the marketer within a company that sells popcorn and candy, like a small candy popcorn shop here in the area. Okay, and can we put this, can you guys see the screen? Yep. All right, and the volume's up? Okay, so, and by the way, we can actually do it with audio, but I didn't want to add more complication to the demo, given you never know how live demos work. So let's see if it, okay. Hi, Watson.
Hi, Inhi.
Okay. It's always funny to hear that. All right, so I'm going to ask him, okay, can you show me all mailings that contain popcorn?
I have found the following mailings.
So now, this is interesting, right? I didn't have to tell him what a mailing was. He knew it. So another aspect of Watson is we're training on appropriate taxonomy and language by industry. And then the notion is, you know what, most industries and most companies, if I'm a small candy shop, I don't have a lot of data. I'm not a platform, right? So, nor am I collecting the data at the scale others are. So what I'm trying to do here is really train a system around marketing technology to automate and how me as a marketer is thinking about it. So Now, I can see all these campaigns, but maybe what I care about is the industry. So I would ask something like, how do these mailings compare to industry benchmark? And if the Wi-Fi is good, it has options to type ahead. But let's see, food service. Let's see if that comes up.
I have not found any benchmark named food service.
Okay.
Type yes if you would like me to do a broader search to find food service.
Yes, let's see if that works. You never know.
I have found the following benchmarks where name match food service.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I have found the following benchmark named food service.
So I was like, I just want to compare other mailings to.
I have found the following benchmark named food service.
Okay,
sports,
thank you.
and entertainment.
I know. Thank you, Watson. Okay, stop. All right. So you never know, right? You're interacting. This is always fun. So, but the notion is here, as a new marketer, maybe working in the platform to create a brand new marketing campaign or looking at results of an existing one, I may not actually know how it compares, but I can also then go, oh, this is interesting. Well, can you show me the data set? And you could see the comparison
I have found the following data set.
That the second group is doing better than I am on some of these open rates and different click rates. So I can look at the columns of the data. So
I have found the following columns.
And I haven't opened a spreadsheet, right? So I can actually look at industry benchmarks as an example. Now, let's imagine maybe I'm thinking, hey, it's the content that wasn't as good as I would have liked. So is there here's one that says popcorn. So let me look at that. And let me preview the HTML.
I have found the following HTML preview related to mailing name Garrett Popcorn.
So this was an email campaign as an example, but let's say, okay, it says a Chicago tradition since 1969. So that's kind of, so Watson, what is the sentiment? Of the subject line. So here,
the subject line of mailing name Garrett Popcorn, MCL 2, has a very positive sentiment score.
So here's another thing. It understood what a subject line was, but it's also telling me how would the audience actually respond to a mailer like this. So as you think about it, even as a brand new marketer, someone in marketing tech, I may not know how to do this, but I can start to interact with a system that begins to understand how I improve my marketing analytics. So maybe I also want to see performance. So one last question, let's see, show me tracking metrics by week for the campaign. It's hard to see this, I think for the last 6 months. Let's see.
I have found the following tracking metrics related to mailings for last 6 months.
Okay. So, and then obviously I can interact with the data set and remove data sets and go deeper into it. But the point of this is not so much about this particular tool or application, but it's the notion of, look, when we think about embedded AI experiences, it's everything from rethink your entire front-end strategy, right, to your entire data integration platform, to ultimately how do you, this was the number 2 use case, how do I enhance the skills of my professionals in the function? And the best way to do that is for us to rethink the way you create content, the way you create campaigns, the way you execute performance metrics. And so my team and I are excited about kind of the use cases that we're applying to this. And obviously the performance and the results will vary by every industry and every profession and every use case. Now, with that, I would say just in terms of my closing remarks, I just want to thank you for being here and want to thank the IBM team as well and the sponsors overall for TiE Inflect, because this is an amazing conference. And my last comment is we're excited about the possibilities of reinventing the professionals' roles in marketing, in commerce, in supply chain, and order management. And this is an exciting area and time to be in this space. And I encourage you to engage with the TiE team as well as with the IBM team, and we'll send out some of these materials and make it available for all of the conference attendees. So with that, thank you very much.